that means muddy water. The two rivers that flow together in Winnipeg are quite silty. But actually, I originated in the deeper prairies of Canada called Verdon, Manitoba. Anyone here from Verdon? One day that's going to work. And when I was little, growing up there, the drinking water was yellow. It was perfectly potable, but it was yellow. And I remember we would go to Winnipeg and the water was clear and tasted a little bit different. And as I've gone through different journeys in my life and refreshed myself with water in different places, I'm always fascinated by it, how it tastes a bit different in different places I go to. There's actually a rumor I once heard that every cup of water that you drink from kitchen taps in your sink has already passed through 7 other bodies before you. 7? Only 7. I reckon it's got to be so many more. When you think of all the beings and bodies that have come before, think of how long we've been sharing this water for. It's not like some new water arrives from some orbital website, shipped direct overnight, ready to be pumped in through my tap into my kettle for my tea to flow through me for the very first time. No, the water that we've got is the water we've always had. Oh, the stories our water could tell us. I bet it would be glad to regale us with tales about the way it's shaped our spaces and places on Earth, about the countless times it's broken for birth. I bet it's also a bit mad, having been dammed up and jammed up and filtered and fouled up, forbidden to flow exactly where it wanted to go. I mean, look, forget the history books. These millions and billions of mysterious, memory-filled molecules that flow through me and all of you hold within them the whole history of the world. The whole history of this big old lump of land on which we now stand. Of course, it must have had its source from which it first sprang forth. I've heard tell the tale told by sages who swear it all started with this one creative lady out there, who one day found herself holding this big, dry lump of land in her hands. She looked at it and she thought, well, what am I going to do with what I now hold? And she decided to roll and mold it into a ball, thinking, I'm going to make this a place for all kinds of creatures and beings to grow and live. I'll press my thumb here and here to give it space for lakes. And I'll trace my fingers along here for fine flowing rivers, and I'll give her a bit of a squeeze to make room for oceans and seas. And by this point, that lump of land in her hands looked like a wadded up bundle of trash. And the sight of this made her laugh, thinking, what on earth have I just done? And she laughed so hard that tears upon tears began to run down her face and onto the lump in her hands, falling into the places she'd pressed into the land. Fresh and cool, her tears, they pooled for a moment, and then trickled and gushed and surged and streamed, bringing life to this lump in blues and greens. Happy with her work and the water that she'd made flow, she stepped back, wished it well, and she let go. Thank you. So I'm going to share a poem now from my latest poetry collection, and this is taking us on a journey back through time. So give a wave if you can remember where you were in 1995. Yeah. So in January 1995, which is when this poem is set, this is actually the second sonnet we're going to have this evening. Simon gave us a great sonnet earlier, so this is another one for you. January 1995, 2 very important things happened. One was, I got my driver's license. I had to do my driving test in the snow. It had just been a blizzard, very Canadian. The other was, in January 1995, film actor, Hollywood actor Keanu Reeves came to Winnipeg to play the title role in Hamlet. Was it the best production of Hamlet that's ever been? Absolutely not. Did 17-year-old me care? Nope. Did my sister and her friend and myself drive in my mom's car afterwards and chase him through the downtown Winnipeg streets? This sonnet will answer that question. This is called Sonnet 1995. 20 years since you played the Danish prince on a cold January prairie stage. Recalling your performance makes me wince. Your presence in the prairies caused a rage. Although you spoke the speech with tripping tongue and sawed the air through less than skillful cries, your struts and frets excited old and young. You struck stars in my adolescent eyes. It is with hindsight shame that you should know that me, my sister, and her friend just might have lurked in my mom's car after the show and chased you through the frozen winter night. 20 years on, what can I do but laugh? And somewhere, I still have your autograph. Very graciously mentioned, I'm part of the Flatiron Choir, and I joined the choir about a year and a half ago, and this journey here to this church, to this choir, has brought so much refreshment to my spirit, and I want to really thank David Hillary, who runs the choir, for doing that. Like joining the choir and coming into poetry and all kinds of other creative pursuits, I've often been able to encounter my tribe. This is for them. To those whose mere presence fully brightens my day, to those in whose eyes I see myself reflected and think, oh, gosh, actually, I'm kind of okay. You cheerleaders, you commiserators, we spill tea together, no matter the storms, the teacups, the weather. Whether minutes or months or decades have passed since we cackled or cried or raged or laughed, you are woven into the ways I can thrive. You are eternally, collectively, compassionately my tribe. So I live in Prestwich now. I've lived in Prestwich for just over a year. It's great, love it. And my wonderful husband is originally from Salford, from this very area that we are in now. So we've been together for quite some time, and he is passionate about music. He loves music. He's shared a lot of the history of Salford and Greater Manchester through talking about music, and through song lyrics and names of songs and musicians. He's told me a lot about the kind of evolution of music through this area. And I've kind of thought, well, you know, Winnipeg actually has a pretty rich music history. Have you heard of Neil Young? Yeah. We went to the same high school. Not at the same time, mind you, but yeah. There's a wonderful song called One Great City, which used to be Winnipeg's terrible slogan, and the chorus is I hate Winnipeg. It's very tongue-in-cheek. And so anyways, we got to talking about this, and I thought, you know, there's a kind of, I've written a poem that's a bit of a mashup of song lyrics and titles and artists from Greater Manchester and from Winnipeg that kind of reflects the us of things. In my book, there's actually a QR code to a Spotify playlist with the songs that are referenced in this poem. Have a good listen, you might be able to tell how many references there are in here. This is called Sounds of Your City. You sing me the sounds of your city. I settle in and sit down in our house, all uncovered, to hear of your dirty old town. Guess who led me to say, this feels like home, this charming man with your heart of gold. Half a world away, I was too Neil Young to know one day like this would eventually come. Leaving was a bittersweet symphony. I miss the harvest moon that rose over one great city. But no blue Mondays, only happy Mondays ahead, as I trade my prairie roses for your stone roses instead. These eyes make me weaker than an elbow to my heart, No joy, only joy, no division. Love will never tear us apart. Because you sing me the sounds of your city, an oasis of an adopted home to 24-hour party people immortalized in song. And someday you will find me learning to sing along. Thank you. Thank you very much. I have one more poem to share. This is from my original book, my first book, After the Storm. I've got a few copies if anyone is interested. Both published by the wonderful Flapjack Press with Pauline there, brilliant publisher. So this last poem, I've been thinking a lot about time recently. We were at a friend's 50th birthday party on Friday, and in a couple of years, I'm going to be joining the 50s Club. Woo! Oh yeah, thank you very much. Looking forward to that. Just really aware of time passing and how busy and frantic time can feel, and where to find those sources of refreshment when things feel really squeezed or stressed. And one thing that I think is available to all of us is that breath, that inhale and that exhale, just to ground us, just to bring ourselves into the moment. And years ago, a dear friend of mine said that one really helpful thing to do when you are feeling that overwhelm and you need that grounding breath is to take a deep breath in and blow some bubbles into the space. And so my wonderful glamorous assistant has just handed out a bunch of pots of bubbles. And these are for you. Oh, here, Mindy, here, you can take this one, we'll trade. There you go. And these are for you, and you might be thinking, oh, I've got a child in my life, I could give these to. No, these are for you. These are for moments where you need a little bit of whimsy, a little bit of refreshment, a little bit of time to ground yourself. And for this final poem, I talk about time. I talk about how our time can be a bit stretched and that kind of thing. And I say the word time quite a bit. So this is an invitation for you. If you hear the word time, blow some bubbles into the space. You can think of it a little bit like a drinking game. Don't drink the bubbles. So this is my final poem. Thank you so much for this. This is just a joy. I can't wait for the rest of the evening. This is Times of Plenty. Remember the times of plenty. Remember having plenty of time to spend days upon hours upon ages, tracing your thoughts across pages. Time for ideas to be written and erased. Time when dozens of doodles graced endless notebooks. Remember taking the time to look at each other, discovering grace in glances and taking chances with actual conversation initiation, awkwardly trying to sound suave or sweet before we redefine the words post and tweet. Remember the times of plenty? This looks amazing, by the way. Remember having plenty of time to let your mind wander for a while, pausing to smile at a memory. Remember remembering memories in detail? The pale pink flush of her cheeks when she blushed, the way he held his cup in his hands before Instagram became our default instead of storing memories in our memory vault. Remember the times of plenty? Remember having plenty of time to read a story from beginning to end and spend time to reflect without need to expect any outcome, just some moments for mulling. Time for the mind to digest and digress before we became obsessed with crafting translations about mundane daily occasions into quirky phrases to update our status, letting our egos be fed by the likes returned at us before current generations developed new associations for words like and tag and troll and trend and handle and follow and share and friend. Remember the times of plenty. Remember having plenty of time to see the majesty and grandeur of forests before we got distracted by tree after tree after tree. Remember taking the time to step back and see a bigger picture, or at least a corner of our cosmos so vast it contains everything, present, future, and past, casting contemplations on what it all means. before the perpetual presence of pocket-sized screens. Remember taking the time to just be here and now, with more or less free reign to remember that it doesn't matter our number of followers or our signal strength. Each day is still going to be the exact same length, and we can spend our days in the ways that we choose if we remember how our time is used. So, breathe. Just be here. We're going to be fine. Remember, we're surrounded by plenty. Remember, we've got plenty of time. Thank you very much.